Hello, today we are here to discuss A War of Whispers. So this is a Kickstarter version of the game that I got quite a while back and never got to the table because honestly I thought it was a hidden role, hidden trader game. But it is a little bit of a hidden role, but it's more of an area control with your scoring is hidden during the game as far as what you're supporting.
And a lot of combat.
Yeah, so it isn't quite what I thought it was, but we'll get into whether we liked it or not. So before we get into that, though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down there because you don't want to miss out on any of these surprise games like this.
Nothing at all. You don't want to miss any of it.
Nope. So what can you tell us?
All right. So this is a 2019 release. Overall rank is 871, which is a pretty good score. Rated 7.4. Plays 2 to 4 in about 30 to 60 minutes. It took us quite a bit longer than that. So I don't know. Maybe if you played a few times, you get it down. It might be able to make it quicker. But it does say ages 14 and up, and I can see that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the cards are a bit confusing as far as how they work. But, the gameplay is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is pretty straightforward. So, all right, and I apologize for jacking these names up. So, designed by Jeremy Stolfus, art by Thomas Jedruzik and Danny May, published by Starling Games. Retail is $50. Card House has it for $45. Noble Knight has $45.95.
Yeah, but that's not the version you're seeing.
Yeah, no, that's just all retail. This is the collector's edition.
So everything you see here that is figures is replaced with cardboard in the retail version. The cards are still the same card stock, I believe, but which is really a nice card stock.
It's a good linen finish on them.
Problem is you're going to shuffle them a lot because every time you play a card, it says
you got to reshuffle the deck.
Yeah, shuffle the deck again, and there's not that many cards, so you're going to be shuffling that a lot. The board it actually sits pretty nice. It's a little bit bowing, but not too bad. But then again, the table is probably not 100% flat either. So,
but that's still not bad for being 3 years old and not gotten it out.
Yeah. So, but all the pieces are custom molded. For they're the same, but for each player color and then each of the different
banners,
warring provinces or whatever.
The empires.
Yes. The player boards are really just cardstock. There's nothing special about them.
Good art. But
the art, that's more thematics, but I do like the art. As far as the quality of this, I mean, it does have a nice table presence. I'm probably going to go ahead and give this probably a 7.5, I think.
I'm going to go a little bit lower just because I really wish they would have done more with the player board.
Yeah.
It's just a really cheap piece of cardboard.
I mean, you don't do much with it during the game.
But it looking at this compared to this, it really retracts from it. And I agree with, I didn't say it yet, but Randy mentioned when we were playing, these really should be made out of wood. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the, obvious intent and care that they put in with all the crown mold, the molding, the plastic molding pieces, they could have done wooden bits for everything else, and it would have just made it that much nicer. So I'm just a little bit lower on 7.
Yeah, the cardboard that comes in at the retail, you got it in this Kickstarter, but the only pieces you actually needed were these numbers 1 through 4, which could have easily been replaced as well.
And these, so that show the empires.
So that's really all there is that you actually needed from the punch board. So so that's our thoughts on quality. So let's move on to theme. So it feels very Game of Thrones.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, the name of the game sounds like a book from
George R.R. Martin.
George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
So this definitely has it's kind of a stab in the back. It's you're kind of working together.
Well, the cards I think add that element of the intrigue and the getting stabbed in the back because you don't know what's going to happen or when it happens.
Even though you're really not attacking each other, everybody's kind of manipulating what's going on the board.
Yeah, you're in the shadows and trying to manipulate these empires.
Yeah, and it's based upon basically a random distribution of these tokens and who you're supporting in this fight to who's going to basically conquer the throne.
Right.
So your tokens remain secret during the game, and I like that intrigue of the game. I thought that was very interesting. So you might be playing, and somebody actually seems to be helping you out during the game, but then halfway through they change and do something different. So yeah, I think thematically this captures the feel of what they're trying to with this. The art on the cards is fantastic.
It really is.
Even in the player boards as well. I love the art. The board itself is kind of meh. You know, the one problem I saw with the board in particular was the yellow and brown colors. The borders.
Well, really, it's the borders for all of them. Because I mean, even if you got the green it blends really well with the forest of that, and the yellow border against the brown. It blends too well together.
So I think some of the colors needed to be a little more differentiated between the starting regions. I think blue, to me, blue, red, and green were not problematic because if you looked at the lines, they were
I think
clear.
it would be if you're colorblind.
Well, yeah, color blindness would be an issue.
So
yeah, because there's no iconography on the board. It's just on the perimeter for each of the turns there are. But as far as the actual board, color blindness would definitely be a factor. So given everything put together as a package, I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's a outstanding, capturing the feeling of what you would expect from a Game of Thrones-esque game.
I agree. With some things that could have been fixed.
Yes.
But maybe a second edition printing or something could fix that.
Yeah. So
I agree. I think 8's a good score for theme. Really good art. I like the art a lot.
Let's talk about the rulebook now. So the rulebook was surprisingly short in this. That's actually was good because we started playing pretty late. So
yes, we did.
I was glad. It's only 16 pages and it's big font. I mean, this is not going to cause you eye strain while you're reading it. If anything, you might be like, "Whoa, take it back a bit," because it's pretty big. But I like that. They have the cover, nice cover, kind of, it doesn't match the board. It's different than the book.
But still good art on it.
So, they've got the different histories of the cults that you're using to manipulate the empires that are on the board. And then you've got the kind of the overview of the game. It's got the components, but this is all the components in the retail. Right. So they did not put in this book the upgrades, but they did give a secondary sheet, which actually does have the upgrades and what you need and what the functions of them are. It doesn't specifically call out what it's replacing, but it does make it fairly clear and easy and obvious which things do what. As far as setup was a breeze. This is a very quick game to get out to the table because all your pieces start off pretty much off the board except for the cities.
And then that's where the iconography does come in because it does tell you really easily where the starting pieces go.
They have pictures everywhere
pictures
on the board.
Of the huts, the towers, and the starting banners.
And it's not evenly distributed. So different clans or different empires have different distributions. Some of them are stronger on cities, some of them are stronger on towers, some of them are stronger on the farms. And then some of them have more banners than others. Like Brown didn't have any banners to start the game.
I mean, Blue had very little houses, but it started with more banners than anybody.
Yeah. So, everybody's got, every power had a different strength on the board, which I thought was cool. And the cards complemented those.
They do.
So even though Brown looked like it was exposed right away, and they're the last turn, so they could easily be invaded quickly, the cards populated, raced out there, which is what you expect with horses. So it made sense it was the horse faction. So and the turn order is already established on the perimeter of the board, so it always plays in that sequence. So I think they've done a nice job with the rulebook. The big issue with the rules that we had is the cards. There's a lot of the cards don't really clearly state what they do, and they do have a clarifications, but it's really for just like one or two of the actions throughout the cards. There's not like each card gives you choices of different actions you can take. And there's one that's specifically named at the bottom. It's like the power action.
And then they later did some errata that we didn't realize.
Yeah, that was on Board Game Geek because there was one that could potentially create an infinite loop.
Yeah.
And we didn't really use it for that during the course of the game.
But once you said it, I totally could see that happening.
Yeah.
Someone metagamed it.
Yep. So, I think there needs to be some more clarification on the cards. I would have liked to have seen a complete index with all the functions with a little more clarification because the cards were not bad.
Right.
I mean, it was usually you could deduce what it was doing, but some of them seemed a little more powerful than they should be for some of the basic actions. some of them, like the Uber actions, were super powerful, which I thought was good.
Well, yeah, but that took more cards to do it, which made sense, and different faction cards. But just, I mean, like the one with the red one, just its basic is really powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And so it's definitely more so than I think any of the other basic actions.
Yeah, some of them are like just move one banner to another space. It wasn't really useful. But then, that one was like jump your person and take the action again. It was like, that's kind of crazy. So, I think the rules, I'm going to give them, I think because of the simplicity of reading and getting into the game, even though the cards are, not explained well, I'm going to probably give it a 7.5 because I don't think it was, I think it didn't impact our game that much. But it definitely could if you've got some sticklers that were trying to argue how those cards work.
In that, or someone's trying to break the game.
Yeah, which could easily happen with this. So let's move on to gameplay. So at the beginning of the game, the board would be not completely empty. You would have...
But it's pretty close. I mean, you got your cities, towers, and a few starting banners.
And the farms.
And the farms, and then that's it.
Yeah, and each of the actions around the board would be completely empty.
Yeah.
And you would start out the game, first of all, it would determine turn order. There's a nice turn order coin. We didn't mention that, but there's a really nice metal coin for first player.
And it's the same on both sides, but it is really nice.
But then from there, everybody's going to take one of their, if you're playing with 3 or 4 players, you're going to have two workers per round, and you're going to go turn order and playing them into different actions. And for each faction, you've got 4 different action places you can place them on. So there's a little bit of worker placement on this. But once you've played your first one, then it goes to the next player. You play both your actions, and then we go around the perimeter of the board in sequence, starting at the starting point, which is here, and every action goes in turn. So blue faction goes first, and you're going to take each of the actions there. The various actions are to add banners to the board based upon criteria, and the criteria is different for the different factions. So while the actions are pretty much the same, some of them have more distribution for attacking, some of them have more for placing, some of them have more for card gaining. So the different factions do vary, but in general, each position has the same role in as you're going for it. And the first one is the sheriff, and they're basically all about putting banners on the board. Although yellow has
some do attack and some do card draw.
Yeah, so you're going to distribute banners into a controlled area. The second one is the steward, and the steward is more about getting cards. I think all of them have cards from the steward.
Yeah, but some will give you banners.
Yeah, some you have an alternate action, so you have to choose one of the actions. You don't get everything pictured; you get either or. The third one is the marshal, and the marshal is again about placing banners. I think there are some.
Just about all of them do at least the banners based off of towers.
Some of them let you fight. So
but some are like more expensive. Like it looks for every 2 towers you get a banner versus maybe getting 2 banners for every tower.
And the only one that's identical, I believe, on every one is the chancellor. The chancellor lets you either battle, which battling in this is very simple. When you battle, you would take your units into an area that's occupied, and for each unit that's already in the space, you would remove one of your units before the battle resolves. If there's a tower in the space you move into, you have to remove one of your units from the attacking force right away. Whichever side has units remaining after the battle, they control the space. If the space is emptied, it reverts to whoever originally owned that space, if it was the defender or the attacker. Or you can take your piece that's there and swap it with any other one in that same faction.
Right.
So you get to take the action again. The person that swaps to your position does not get another action. So the timer moves, and it basically replaces your action with a different one. But it also, those pieces will not all come off the board at the end of the round.
So it could potentially lock that up for a round or 2.
And in the early game, you might get to take multiple of those actions, because whoever is furthest to the right and if there's spaces between, so let's say orange was here and my purple, blue color, whatever is at the end, orange will get this first positioned action, but the purple here would get all three of the other actions because
Right.
there's nobody in them. So it defaults to the person furthest at the path.
Yeah, and I think that's a really neat balancing
Yes.
mechanism because it allows you to do a lot of stuff to get built up quickly. But later rounds, as these are getting filled up, you don't get to do that
Right.
as much.
Now, if purple had been in one of the middle positions, you only get from to
Right.
that position. So the last position in this case would not be done.
Right.
So I thought that was a neat
And it's a neat
mechanic.
blocking mechanism too, because
Yeah.
someone might take that chancellor position wanting to get all three, but then someone goes right next to them and
Yeah.
they don't get anything but that chancellor.
And that happens a lot more later in the game.
Yeah.
Or I think this game would be very interesting with 4 players. We
I
played
agree.
with 3,
We
but
played
I
with
think
3.
with 4 is ideal
Yeah.
because you're going to have a lot more interaction on that. So then after blue, then we could proceed to red, green, yellow, brown. All of them do the same actions. Now, as free actions, as you gain these cards will give you abilities. There's 3 abilities on the cards.
And
I
every
believe, on
faction
every
has
card.
its own type of card.
Yeah, but they interact with each other. So in order to trigger the power action on each card, you have to play this card in conjunction with discarding a card of whatever color that is. In this case, it's a green along with the horse, which is brown. So you'd have to have a green card to discard to play this in addition.
Right.
And so you could play the basic brown and take with a simple action on it, which in this case is to move one army of the active empire to the other to any other region it controls. So I could take a brown from here, move it over to here if I wanted. Again, not super powerful.
But if you discard 2 of them.
But if I discarded 2, then I can rearrange any empire's banners within, and that's super powerful.
That is really powerful.
I totally changed the game for red on that when I played it because I took all their pieces and put them back into their one central area of theirs that were not. You cannot void a space, so you can't take everything out of.
But you can take all but one.
But you could totally move them such that they have a very weak force.
Right.
So, I thought these cards were really cool and interesting part of the game.
I agree.
Definitely added to the intrigue. And the other thing that's cool about them is you can play them, as long as it's your turn, you can play them for any faction. So even though this is a brown card, if I'm controlling a green faction at the time I choose to play it will trigger for green.
Yep.
So,
really cool.
They're not necessarily tied to the color, which I thought was a really neat aspect of the game too. Now, one thing we didn't mention at the beginning of the game, you get these 5 faction tokens, and you're going to randomize these and shuffle them up, and you're going to put them down, face down on each one of your spaces, and you can look at them at your leisure, but you don't want to show them to anybody. And they have multipliers that are positive for the first 3, then 0, and then -1 for how many cities that empire controls at the end of the game.
Of that token. So the token will show a picture of the empire, and so then it looks at the number of cities.
Right. So you want to try to get your factions that you're supporting to be in the most power of controlling cities at the end of the game. And it's all about, trying to, that whole manipulation factor. Now, at the end of every round, this is one thing I'm still a little unsure about how much I feel about it.
I liked it because it helped me win.
Well, yeah. But basically at the end of every round for the first 3 rounds out of the 4, the 4th round you cannot change because it's a 4-round game and done.
Yeah, and the 4th round you score before this ability happens.
So you can take 2 of your tokens that have not been reveal them and swap them.
Right.
So basically if you've got a faction that's basically being dominated upon like yellow was in this game.
Yes.
And it's one of your higher scoring ones, you can swap it down to a lower scoring one and
hopefully get something that would score better to replace it.
But if somebody else has a better distribution and does not reveal and swap tokens, they're going to, if there's a tie, they will break the tie and win.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was good, but it seemed like because you could swap those tokens, basically every round you could do 2, because the last one's going to, by default, be stuck wherever it is, because you can only do 2 swaps, and they have to be exposed at that point, and you cannot swap exposed tokens, so it would be twice during the game you could swap them. It gave you too easy of an out in many cases to swap things, and it felt like the final round everything was, if everybody was gunning for one team, like in this case, yellow was pretty much just odd
Yeah,
man
they were
out.
done.
There was like no
Very close.
yellow left.
Red was gone too.
Yellow was not coming back from
Yeah.
its devastation. Then the fact that that somebody's got yellow at the bottom or at the top or whatever was less relevant to the game. I would have liked to see more relevance and more impact, because we had three scores that were 1 point apart.
Yeah.
And you could easily get ties in this.
And the tiebreaker is whoever has the most cards.
Well, the first tiebreaker is if you didn't reveal your tokens. But then if your tokens are revealed,
then it's
the same. Then it's the number of cards. We would have tied, if I had swapped those two, we would have completely tied the game, because we had the same number of cards. We had the same
number of
tokens would have been revealed in that case, because that's the only thing that differentiated us was I didn't.
And then I would have won because I have a better beard.
I don't know about that. You look the most like the bear. So basically, I think that I like the mechanics of this. It just feels like it's a little too tight. Now there are the expansion pieces.
Yeah, and we don't know anything about the expansions. I mean, we looked into it, but we obviously didn't play with them.
Yeah, it looks like they add more cards. There's some of the cards.
Well, the one variant you told about was really interesting.
Yeah, there is a variant, and I think we would want to play with that role in the future, because basically instead of playing your workers to the spaces, you can place them as permanent cities onto the board. You'll get less actions, but you'll have another scoring potential for the different region.
And on a 3-player game, we ended up having 4 extra guys that we didn't need.
Well, the 4 players would not go on the board. That's
right. But okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it would just be the same number. You would have fewer actions to take, because now they're taking up cities. Now, at the end of the round, each round you're going to remove one of your workers back off the board for the next round. So you're always going to play 2, remove 1, play 2, remove 1.
But that gives you more actions later on, because the ones that are still on the board, you still get to do those actions.
Exactly. So the board's going to get more filled up every round. But having them now as cities, you can also remove the city if you choose to do so. So you could play it, and then as you build up, find out you could be bluffing that's not really the region you're going for, and pull that one back.
Right.
So I think that adds some more intrigue. The expansions, it looks like one of the expansions adds cards that are actions that you can play on your opponent's turn.
Okay.
To basically
kind of screw them over.
Well, it's not necessarily screwing them over. The ones I saw look like, I will take your action for you and take it as my turn, but you will get a perk and benefit.
Oh,
so they have to agree to it.
Yeah.
So it's not
that
necessarily.
Sounds neat.
So it's a little more possibilities of
it adds some diplomacy to it.
Yeah. So I think this is a very high player interaction game, but it doesn't feel like you're really attacking the player.
It doesn't, but it can. I can see it feeling mean though.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you got someone that figures out what the other people are trying to vie for, and then you manipulate that.
Well, what I love is games, because we played Dogs of War. This reminds me a lot of Dogs of War.
It does.
As far as the feel of the game, not the way it plays. Dogs of War is a tug of war game, but again, you're supporting a faction, and it's a hidden thing. In that one, we had some epic games of that where somebody was just trying to gun for me and thinking I had this specific color, and they were sabotaging that color. And I didn't have that color at all. And I was like, okay, so the whole game.
And of course, he didn't tell anybody that.
No, I let him do my work for me. So this definitely has that same feel. It could happen, but it feels like, because it's so tight, it's not you're much more limited in the impact of that. You aren't going to have that great feeling at the end where.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Plus, you don't have to be locked in, because you can swap out. And I think. That's where I'm still struggling, because I think that swapping out, it's necessary, but I think it's a little bit too loose of the game because of it. I think I would like it more if maybe like only the first couple rounds you had the option to do that swapping.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's still bothering me on that. But all in all, I still really enjoyed this game a lot. I'm probably going to give this, I think a 7.5 is where I'm at.
I think I'm in the same spot. I thought the swapping wasn't as significant. I can definitely see why it's there, because it can totally change your scoring of the game, and then go from being horrible to winning the game potentially
Yep.
by swapping that out. So I really like that element of it. And it could be a bit of a hindrance because once you reveal it, then your opponents know what you got and what you're trying to score. And if they have enough time, they could still affect that and kind of screw you over in that regard as well. So I like that a little bit, but I think 7.5 is a good score. I agree with it.
Or maybe even like have it where if you don't flip the tokens,
maybe you get some bonus
some bonus points for that. I think that might have impacted too.
I think so too.
Because I mean, the whole thing is about how you manipulate and take advantage of the different factions. So to have it where somebody could just swap the pieces and end up beating you. I mean, yes, I could have swapped, but again, we would have just tied.
Yeah, I mean, like if it was like 1 point per face down token, that would have changed the game.
Exactly. It's because it was that tight. It was 33 to 35 was the range. So that's our thoughts about War of Whispers.
Liked it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Solid game.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts on it, share what you think below. You don't have to whisper. You can just type it right in. We prefer that because we don't hear you.
But you can't. Yeah, we can't hear you, so you can't talk to them.
Yeah, if you want to use lowercase, because
Yeah, we don't like yelling.
Yeah, you don't have to uppercase it. Yeah. You could lowercase it, and we'll assume it's a whisper, and we'll read it as such. So yeah. So until next time, we're going to be very quiet because it's really late here and people are sleeping. So we are going to start whispering here after we leave. So have a good night, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.